cow working and
if she's got like the security of a kind of enclosed area, she's a lot better, but the more open you get, the more she's more likely to. And that little nose thing where she drops it to the ground, and if you try to get it up, she gets really stressed. That's just time. You know, you can lunge her and wear her completely down before you do something, but you know, it's exhausting. Don't go sideways. Around this way. And I don't get the impression that she tried to buck me off, but I'm not sure if she got stressed enough she wouldn't try something. So she's not really that stressed in here, so you can kind of ride around in circles, and I don't. But the thing is, just the more you apply to where she doesn't feel secure, the more she starts to act out. She's definitely trainable, but I don't know that her end result's going to be anything that you're going to want, though. And she is very difficult to train. Not impossible, but she's very difficult. Not overly spooky about things, though, thankfully. Right there, because she can't go very far in here, she's not going to react to it. But if she's out there, she goes. But that first time I drove her, I got her hooked up the driving lines, and she stuck her head, like an ostrich, nose down the ground, and just stood there like this, just shaking. And I wouldn't do anything except kind of, let's go, go. But she wouldn't go, so I got that little whip, and I was, let's go, come on, let's go, just kind of increasing pressure, and she finally just, leapt up through the air, lunged, bolting and dragging me, and then tried to jump out that front panel right there, who got her front feet over the gate, and I was like, so then I get her back down, stop her, and she just did the same thing, stop, and then when you finally got her to go, it was like, da. For an hour I fought with her, trying to get her to do it. She's the hardest horse I've ever had to teach to ground drive in my life. She's got this fire that kind of, she's a lot better than she was, obviously. So, and she obviously doesn't care that you're sitting on her, which is good, considering that she's had other issues. But I had to teach her to stop and back up before I ever taught her to go forward. And I never have done that. So I taught her to stop and back up where I could just at least control her if she went into the bridle crazy, and then worked with her, pedaled with her. And this was not like fun to do. I was like, you've got to go forward before I put you up today. You've got to go forward at least a few steps. And she dropped her nose to the ground, and then she went trailing that dirt for half a round, and I was like, okay, that's fine. That's all we'll do today, as long as you went forward. And the next day, she did it, but it was always nose to the ground, walked the whole time. She was fine as long as that nose was to the ground, and she was calm as long as that nose was to the ground, but you tried to raise that head up, and she's just like, and now she can raise her head up, and she's not like but she's apt to get that way sometimes, and then when she gets that way, she just builds on it, and gets more and more nervous, more and more that way, and it's very, I can get after her sometimes, and she'll shake out of it, and then sometimes it'll make her worse, and you just don't know when. And I like the mare. I feel kind of sorry for her because she's not grasping things. Is more what the issue is, but she's obviously learned, what she was supposed to do. I'm loath to put her in a large area that puts me and her at a worse angle for risk, sets her up to fail, and sets me up maybe to get hurt right now, because if she really takes the bit, you're going to have a hard time stopping her. I can stop her, but I have to kind of maneuver her. Back up. And this was an effort to teach, too. She was not a nice horse to teach that to. He's talking to his dog.
Okay.
He's got his cattle dog up there. But, you know, getting her to this point has been a long, never-ending struggle and a battle. And getting her to a point where she would be safe, and I can't guarantee that she would ever be safe, is going to be a long uphill. It's like we're going through sucking mud, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, is what it feels like a lot of times with her. And I know how to get around her a lot of times, where I can work with her, but that doesn't mean she's learning it to where it will translate to you. And that's the thing. I mean, you know, like I said, I've had her out there riding up and down that aisle. The more I ride her up and down that aisle, though, the longer we go, the more stressed she gets, unless you take her out and wear her down. You take her out and wear her down, she's pretty good then. And, you know, I mean, I know it's not helping that she's cooped up in a stall either, but nonetheless, you see the worst of them when you're like this, too. They've got their energy at the highest level, and you're going to see the worst they've got to offer. So, and she's not going to be good with a bunch of stuff like that, stuff going on where you're trying to concentrate, because she's going to be looking around and stuff like that. I mean, but she knows stop, she knows back, she knows forward. That's your thing. If she gets stressed and she decides she's going to freeze, and then you finally get her to go forward, that's when she's going to act up. That's when you're going to have a problem with her. That's when she's going to be like that, and that's when she's going to try to stick her nose to the ground. And typically she doesn't buck, but I don't like that, because she's in a perfect position to do something to you. So I pop her head up, and then that stresses her up worse. She's like, oh, no, I can't deal with this, you know. And that's the thing. It's when she starts freezing up again. And though she knows that she's supposed to go now, and she kind of knows that she's not supposed to do that, that's the issue. This is a mare who will need everything broken down into much right there. She got a little stress. She can't go far, though. But if she was in an open area, the more steps she takes, the more stress she gets. Run the hand. There you go. Whoop. Back. She's learned everything she's been needing to learn, but it's taken an inordinate amount of time to teach it. But she's 6 years old. I broke a 15-year-old breeding stallion.
How was that?
I had him in the barn a month working with him, and then the guy finally decided he wanted him, and the horse and I had kind of gotten along to that point. But it was like 30 days of groundwork actually. He was okay. He did good, but he would learn so much better if he'd been broken. He was 2. They can only absorb so much, whereas when they're 2, they're like a sponge. So they're a lot more adaptable, they're more malleable, and that's what she's having a problem with. And I had to go back up and break it down into smaller steps, because that's the only way she can learn. If you try to take a normal step like you take with a young horse, where you think, okay, we can go ahead and move on, you can't. You got to back up. Sometimes you have to do it completely different with her. You can't. You got to think outside the box with her, or you're just not going to get anywhere with her. And I've tried my best to keep her quiet, because I do not want her nervous. Because the first week and a half I was working with her, every time I came in the stall to tie her up, you know, she stood there and just shook. And I mean, the whole body was just like this. She just couldn't handle it, because she was in a different place. She was with a different person. She didn't know what I was going to. Shaking. The girl that has the spotted saddle horse, she's like, what's wrong with that horse? Is she sick? I said, no, she's just nervous. She's scared. You know, and that's not normal. She doesn't do it now, obviously. She's not shaking now. That's what I've been really trying to be like, I'm not going to kill you. We're just trying to do a few things and try to get her quiet. And obviously she has. She's gotten comfortable with me to the point where sometimes when she gets stressed, which I don't want her to do, she's on the ground, I'm working her on the ground, and she gets stressed, she runs up and shoves her face against me. And I'm like, do not do that, get in my space like that. But she's needy. She's wanting the security. She's very insecure. She's very codependent sometimes. So as far as horse psychology, there you go.
Maybe we should get her in a 12-step program.
Well, I mean, that's where she is. I can't guarantee if you left her 60 days if she'd be all that great for you then. I don't want you to sit there and spend that money then and say, hey, Jill Edwards, she just kept this, and the horse isn't where I wanted it to be, and she took all this money and this and that. I don't want to do that. And I especially don't want you to take her home thinking that I'm endorsing her to be safe and you get hurt and thrown in the hospital. That's
no, I understand that, and I appreciate your candor with
that. That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's what I mean. I've tried to avoid it for me as well by getting her in small areas, because she's more comfortable. That's why I've rode her in that little little pen there. I haven't gotten her out in the arenas and this and that because I know the open area makes her more nervous. She's more nervous in the outdoor than she is the indoor and this and that. And the indoor's a bigger area, but she feels more closed in there, so she's more relaxed. So, I mean, you know, she's not especially spooky. As far as like flapping stuff, she's not that spooky. She's more, you're asking me to do something, I mentally can't handle it sometimes.